the heart of Gotham. In a few moments, Bruce Wayne will be live on stage to explain his sudden interest in Gotham politics. The infamous Playboy millionaire has never been one to—
It's billionaire, Vicky. Millionaires are so last year.
Nope. Hey, Bruce on live TV too. What a guy, but we have no clue that this man right here goes out at night and beats up criminals. And he's also the same man who, in this persona right here, donates money to children's hospitals, makes hospitals all around Gotham completely free for the disenfranchised and just people in general, to even having a bunch of sponsorship programs just for immigrants. All of this stuff is the duality that makes comic books interesting, but somewhere along the way, superheroes stopped hiding. Secret identities became less common. Even if you look at something like the MCU and superhero media, the first Iron Man movie literally had him out himself, Tony Stark, by saying that he is, quote unquote, let me just say it verbatim. You know what? Let me just let the boy say it himself.
I am Iron Man.
Freeze frame right there. That is when the idea of a secret identity started to feel outdated in superhero media. Today, everyone is famous. Most of these superheroes are actually celebrities in the real world, or their world, should I say. And in that sense of trying to chase realism, because obviously a lot of these heroes won't be able to maintain that identity for too long, we've effectively killed one of the more essential pillars, in my opinion, of superhero storytelling. Literally put that under the rug, and nobody even noticed the butler sleeping. Like, how did that happen? And people don't even talk about it that much. And the horrible part about it is that secret identities isn't just about our heroes hiding in plain sight. They're about drama, humanity, and the tension that we have between two worlds. What are these worlds? The one that they live in and the one that they protect. They see it from an outsider perspective, and then eventually when the night is done, they jump back inside into the thick of things to see what they're doing is really making an impact, and are the people around them truly safer with their presence. You feel me? Like, when we lose that, heroes, in my opinion, stop being people pretending to be gods, and they start becoming gods pretending to be people, right? They have a larger-than-life personality, obviously, when they are in costume, but the characters that were created with a secret identity, they need to keep it unless there is some sort of grandiose storytelling plot. Because when they actually become famous in both of their alter egos, that is when they put a lot of our heroes, even the more fallible ones, on these higher level pedestals. They have effectively become gods on a thematic and on a symbolic level. Kind of similar to the real world when you see a bunch of celebrities being idealized and a bunch of fans and stans going in awe with every single movement they make. You saw that meme, that video when like Michael Jackson was doing a press conference and every single movement that he did, photographers ended up snapping a picture? It's kind of like that level of worship that happens when these characters become public figures. But the first thing to talk about when it comes to secret identities is the drama behind the mask. Now, when it comes to detractors of secret identities, the first thing that I will point out to is that it leads to a bunch of tropes that we've already seen before, and it opens up a can of worms that we like to call soap opera drama. But in my opinion, SOD, that's what I'm gonna call it, is the heart of superhero storytelling. It's that ongoing push and pull, the tension between the loved ones and the lies that you have to tell them, between normalcy, right, trying to live a normal life, and responsibility of knowing you have the resources, either the wealth, the abilities, the power to help others. That is what made superhero comics, the foundation of it. That is what made it thrive for decades and even to this day. Let's look at one of our favorite characters, Spider-Man, Peter Parker and his Parker luck. He is in a never-ending juggling act. He's late to class, he's missing rent, he's disappointing Aunt May, he's disappointing the curfews that was set by Aunt May, all because he's out there saving people's lives. Every single time that he hides the truth from, I don't know, Mary Jane, Gwen, any of his other love interests or family members, it's because he's doing that out of their protection. There isn't anything malicious about his dishonesty, but it does show us that protecting our loved ones can hurt. You have to hide them, the ugly or sometimes really cool truths about you, because if they knew that, they have a target on their back. The lies build distance, And the double life that a lot of these characters experience creates guilt if you are, of course, a normal, properly functioning human being, and you're not an insane sociopath or somebody with some sort of mental illness that prevents them from feeling proper emotions. But that's going off topic. It leads to real-life human drama. Anyone who's ever tried to balance family, love, and obviously duty, trying to build your bread up, build your money, get your bag up, right? Trying to do your passions, trying to go to school, university, college, all of that stuff, I don't know, trying to help out others, but also trying to allocate your time to be with your brother, to be with your sister, your mom and dad, your cousins. You understand that pain. People who hate the love interest drama often misunderstand what it's actually doing. It's not about cheap romantic tension or cheap conflict between two people. It's about emotional realism. Imagine yourself in their shoes, okay? Imagine being in a relationship with somebody who constantly disappears, who leaves when they say that they're going to make plans with you, and then they leave because of something that they can't explain. On top of the fact of coming home bruised, who never tells you where they are or where they were, and who clearly carries the weight of something either far bigger than themselves or are up to some very suspicious activities that are, let's say, not exactly legal, right? You would get angry as well. You would demand those answers. If you were a superhero, though, you would live every day knowing the truth that could destroy the person that you love, because some people, let's be honest, aren't fit for that life. You have to realize you are a superhuman. You can leap tall buildings in a single bound. Not everybody is ready to be a part of that world. Maybe it's for the best, but out of possible selfishness, we don't know because I'm creating a make-believe character here, you are trying to keep them a part of your life, even though you knew if they found out the truth, they would leave you because they don't want to deal with their loved one dying. It's the same way of somebody not wanting to date a police officer or an FBI agent. It's the same risk that people don't want to experience. It's not melodrama. That is heartbreak. When superheroes stop hiding, we lose a lot of that psychological richness, the little seasoning on the meat. We lose the sacrifice, the inner conflict that, in my opinion, make these characters feel alive. Secret identities make the extraordinary feel relatable. Without them, it can make certain characters like a Spider-Man, like a Superman, like a Batman, even like an Iron Man feel like public figures instead of private tragedies. Think about it. Characters like Spider-Man, Peter Parker, they will go amongst the living, walk among humanity, and nobody will ever see or understand their sacrifice. They will trounce all over him, they will fire him, they will evict him from his apartment, not knowing, the landlord in this case, not knowing that he saved their child, their wife, their friend. That is what makes all of this come together, and it shows us another side of these heroes, the fact that they are selfless. They do not need popularity. They do this just for the sake of being good, and helping people is what they were taught to do or what they learned how to do. But this leads me to the lost art of the supporting cast and how this directly ties to an SI. A hero and their private life, a story as old as time and one that doesn't last very long when you're in the eyes of the public. But as they try to keep their lives separate and safe, the world itself grows roots right around them. We get workplaces, friendships, and an entire ecosystem of a bunch of like ordinary people whose lives kind of become intertwined and entrenched into these characters that we've fallen in love with. Characters like, let's look at Superman for example. The Daily Planet itself is the beating heart of Metropolis. We have Lois Lane, which even in the recent Superman movie, we see that she isn't just a love interest. She challenges Superman's ideals. Perry White, who actively is that gruff moral compass, who actually ends up giving advice to a literal god, right? Superman himself, Jimmy Olsen, his best pal, is the optimism that reminds Clark what hope looks like. They aren't filler characters, they need to be there. They are reflections of humanity, and that is Clark's roots to the people of Earth, right? At least in its most workable sense, because they're going to be characters who are important to the story. Look at Spider-Man and the Daily Bugle. A lot of the people there, especially J. Jonah Jameson, is the loudest Spider-Man critic in all of New York, but the important part about all of that is it keeps him grounded. It keeps him from his ego going to his head, right? But then there's that very unforgettable moment in Spider-Man 2002 by Sam Raimi when Green Goblin bursts into that Daily Bugle office and demands to know, who is the guy taking pictures of Spider-Man? I must know. And Jonah, the man who trashes Spider-Man every day, in print, mind you, through actual articles that you could just dig up, he refuses to give up Peter. Who's the photographer, right? That is exactly the question that Goblin demands. And Jonah lies. He says, I don't know, and says that they come through the mail or electronically. I don't exactly remember what he said, but that is what defined him as a character. We realize he isn't actually all bad. He wasn't going to air out Peter just like that because he knows that he is a kid. If everyone knew who Spider-Man was, we wouldn't get that kind of complexity because he is protecting his greatest op and he doesn't even know that. We learn here that he is a very principled, loyal, and brave man, but on the other side, when dealing with Spider-Man, he is very prideful and obnoxious. Secret Identities create a world filled with human textures. Coworkers, neighbors, rivals, all of them come together to fit within a hero's collective puzzle. The next thing that I want to talk about is something that I like to call the logic of the disguise. Bear with me. We look at these characters like Superman and Clark Kent, and we're like, nobody could possibly mistake that guy to not be Superman. Please, you cannot fool anybody with a pair of glasses. But all the extra things writers do to make sure that it makes sense actually makes the world feel a lot more intricate and planned. Clark, he just doesn't wear glasses. Of course he does, but what does the glasses do? The glasses actually cut the blue of his eyes. It dulls it out because his eyes are the bluest blue it could possibly ever blue, right? Kind of contrasting to his red glow when he's using his heat vision. So those actually affect it. And of course, glasses kind of reshape the structure of your face anyways. He also, of course, changes his posture. Shoulders slouched, eyes lowered, right? He fumbles his words, he stutters, he avoids attention, he's more clumsy. But Superman, he commands a room. Clark, he tries to disappear into that room. Does that make any sense? He tries to seem like somebody who is unimportant. He changes his voice and also his mannerisms. On top of the fact, he's not exactly tricking people because he's letting them see what they expect to see. Nobody would ever believe a literal god is walking among them, typing articles for minimum wage. Obviously, he got a bit of a boost from being associated with Lois Lane and winning a lot of, prizes for his great writing. He had to build his way up. But why would anybody believe that? That is the logic. He can fly through the air. Why would he ever concern himself with getting a job? It's not that the disguise itself is brilliant. Of course, with all these safeguards, it does make it kind of impressive. It's the human denial that is the brilliant part about it. That is the poetry in the Secret Identity. Superman hides not to mock humanity, as, Kill Bill once said, but to live among them. He wants to be more human, even if only in that quote-unquote disguise, because the real Clark is obviously somewhere in between Superman and the mild-mannered reporter, right? And then there's somebody like the Flash, the fastest man alive. What does he do? He has a bit of a quirk. He constantly shows up late. That is narrative genius and just very funny as a trope, but it is a character storytelling decision that is disguised as a joke, but it makes him a lot more human. And Batman, he is genius, right? The disguise itself is almost like a perfect inversion of Clark Kent. Bruce is a performative piece, just like Clark, well, the Daily Planet Clark, that is, but while one becomes smaller to fit in, the other becomes larger to distract, right? Bruce Wayne, if you ever played Gotham Knights, that game from like 2-3 years ago, we saw one of those videotapes in the Iceberg Lounge when he is dancing butt naked, not really, he has underwear on, and he's completely quote-unquote drunk. But we have to remember, this man is always sober. He's probably never had a full bottle of alcohol in his life because he has to keep up his peak human shape. So he's doing all of this sober, which is actually kind of insane. Like, a sober man doing all of this. He is one hell of a method actor, if I do say so myself, because, man, let me tell you, this man needs a Golden Globe. But, bro, he needs an Oscar. But piggybacking off of all of that, 2 lives introduces 2 stories. Well, what does that possibly mean? it sets up one of the most fascinating things in fiction, which is duality. Two perspectives, two versions of the same person, each revealing things that the other identity hides. Isn't that kind of beautiful? Bruce Wayne and Batman, they aren't the same person wearing two outfits. There are two philosophies here at war, right? Bruce represents that human attempt to live normally, to smile, to socialize, to keep the illusion of control. But Batman, he is that wound that will never heal, the obsession that consumes his every waking moment, every single time the sun goes out. If we look at Batman ego, he is literally a psychological demon in his head that is trying to convert and destroy him, to be a pure version of himself so that he can go out in Bruce's body and destroy anything that seems to be a problem to Gotham, right? He wants to do a switch, a psychological break, just like Harvey Dent and Two-Face. He wants to be another personality or alter in his head so that Bruce doesn't have to worry about the responsibility. But without one, the other collapses, right? Without Bruce to be that moral compass, Batman will go off the deep end and end up doing things that he really wouldn't want to do otherwise. But Batman himself is what gives Bruce the drive to do things outside of what is considered humanly possible, to have the mentality to do a 15-year or 10-year, I don't even know, plan going across the globe to become as strong and as smart and as skilled as humanly possible to fight against the criminal elements. No one man could do that. Both personas are kind of like checks that are put in place to keep both sides rational. If you look at somebody like Tony Stark and Iron Man, which of course is completely thrown away in the MCU, what I love about it is that Tony the man is hated. He is a former weapons dealer responsible for any number of countless deaths. Iron Man is a hero. He is adored. He is a symbol of justice and honestly technological wonder. The world loves one and despises the other, even though they are the same person. The irony there, get it, gives the story moral depth. When Tony made his identity public, it wasn't exactly liberation, it was exposure. Suddenly every flaw, every mistake, every failure then became magnified, which actually, in my opinion, when it comes to the comics, made everything hit more because he had a secret identity for the longest time, and now all of his sins are coming back to bite him in the ass, for lack of a better words. He lost the ability to separate his guilt from his ideals. That right there is the beauty. Our heroes experience contradiction in their lives through their efforts or through what is done onto them. But writers are able to explore that. They're able to wrestle with morality, with shame, and the fact that they all wear masks. The one that they show the world versus the one that they hide behind closed doors. And that is how we relate to heroes, because for all of us, there is a person, right, who we are and the person that we wish we could be. Our front face that we show to the world, our best foot forward. Superheroes themselves just have a literal mask. And finally, I would like to talk about when the mask comes off, when everything unravels and their identity is revealed, all the balance that they made in their life is destroyed, everything collapses. Every lie, every secret, every sacrifice that they've ever made, it comes crashing down, and now they have to worry about more important things like their loved one's safety, and it puts a bit of a wall between them saving people that they don't know about, right, their normal job, and worrying more about their father, their mother, their aunt, their sister, their girlfriend or boyfriend. And for an arc, or maybe even longer if it's permanent, it makes their life a lot harder, and nowhere has it been done better than Brian Michael Bendis' Daredevil run. Of course, there have been things that are on par with this, but that is the gold standard, and I won't spoil it. I have talked about it before in previous videos. But here's when Kingpin exposes Matt Murdock to be Daredevil, and it's not even a victory on Kingpin's part, it is a death sentence for Matt, right? His career, it collapses, his friends, some of them, abandon him because he was already showing very self-destructive tendencies. His enemies swarm him. He's hunted not as a vigilante, but as a man with a name that is out there who can be found, an address, and people to lose. And the brilliance of all of this as a story is it doesn't just show what happens when the mask is taken away from Matt, it shows us why all of that was necessary in the first place, and it leads to him actually being caught by authorities and of course giving himself up and being put in jail, which leads to the phenomenal Devil in Cell Block D layup by Bendis to Brubaker when they had that writer switch, and that being the first arc in Brubaker's run was, well, one hell of an impression to say the least, because he was set in a prison with all of the people that want to kill him, people that he put behind bars to suffer through life sentences, and he had to fight his way out of there. And the worst part is that a lot of them were not only just named supervillains, but also criminals, crooks, mob bosses, and even villains of other heroes, like Hammerhead. All of that comes clashing, but thankfully, he had other people in jail as well that he was friends with, like the Punisher. Really great stuff, and honestly, such a cathartic way to see Matt actually deal with the consequences of his own actions, because in this run, he was tweaking. He didn't deserve, of course, being sent to prison and having to actually fight for his life, right? And having to do all of that. But he wasn't exactly in the most healthy and stable place, and it only got worse throughout Matt's time in Brubaker's run. It's really fascinating to say the least. It's not just a one-time occurrence, you have to deal with those consequences. Everyone you love will become a target, and now suddenly the thing that made you become a hero, right, to save other people, or help out your loved ones, or even to protect people that matter the most to you, they become the thing that could possibly destroy your life. But what do you guys think? Do you think secret identities are outdated, or are they timeless? Are they a part of that hero's journey that should be thrown away eventually for more character development, or should they always be there for the significance of emotional depth and their humanity? Even gods need to feel human sometimes, you know? And I'm talking about even the human level characters, because Daredevil, Batman, Spider-Man, characters that don't have Superman or Flash or Green Lantern level strength, those characters are head over heels above all of us else. But yeah, I had a bit of a problem here, if you guys could tell by my voice a little bit. You know, I had my wisdom teeth taken out. That sucked. They look like actual dinosaur teeth in the little container that they gave me. I know. Have any of you guys had to experience the same pain? Oh, the pressure is real. But yeah, that's all from me. See you all later. Remember to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications so you know when a new video goes live. And remember to comment and answer the question of the day down below. Take care. Deuces. Peace.